little fella had his problems, and you know, like he's up here on his own now. Like before, he was in a pair. You saw him shine away from heavy traffic, and he's back up there now, facing it all on his own. So he hasn't got his mate by the side. He's got no schoolmaster. So he's doing it. It takes a lot of time. What perhaps people don't understand is we have them done normally in 6 weeks. They're done to this. That's 95% of horses are done. The other 5% consist of horses that have got a problem. Like it might be, you know, they've lost a shoe, and the farrier, you know, we only try to use the same farrier all the time because we trust what he does. Well, then that means that you know, he could be on holiday, it's a bank holiday weekend, something like that can hold it up. Another thing that often is the problem of the ones that are held up is due to teeth. So they've got a wolf tooth. We always say to clients, make sure their wolf teeth are out. But not all vets will take them out because they say no, he's comfortable with it. But with a soft rubber bit in his mouth, the bit diameter is bigger, therefore it's more likely to touch the wolf tooth. And if the wolf tooth is loose in any way or you know, just uncomfortable for whatever reason, then that could be a hold up. And there's obviously other things that happen, you know, you can get lameness sometimes, you can get them being a bit off colour due to the fact that, you know, they're away from home. You see, horse don't understand that he's come for 6 weeks training, he's got no idea, he thinks he's been abandoned, you know, obviously. So we have to make them as comfortable and as happy as you can. There's ways you can do that, what stable you put them in, where you position them in the stable, and lots of other little bits and pieces you can do to make them feel at home, yeah? And to settle. I mean, we're very fortunate over the years. You've learnt all sorts of little bits and pieces you can do to help them settle into the stable and feel at home. And, you know, loads of things, a few things you can do to make them feel happier. So, but most of them are done in 6 weeks. Now, where horse can take more time is to do with what's already happened to him, yeah? What his life has taught him. So even if you take him at 3, we don't take them till they're 3 years old. I don't mean January the 1st, but when they've had their birthday. I mean, some horses are born in August. So we wouldn't take them until, you know, they've got a full, you know, all their teeth are into a 3-year-old. So, good boy, walk up. So sometimes, why do they take longer than 6 weeks? It's lots of reasons, but it's the history they've had so far in their life in them 3 years. Some people have, you know, tried to train it for driving, to break it, and they've made a mistake. Anyone can make a mistake. Anybody can make a mistake. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a terrible thing. It's maybe not good for the horse, you know, if something goes wrong and you're not sure what to do or how far to take the horse, you know, at that particular moment in time. You know, now's the time to stop, call it a day for the day, or you go on longer and that type of thing. That's just experience. You can't do anything about that, you know, that's pushing. But this particular horse had a nasty incident, as I explained before, with now that's a lovely thing there. You see that you've got the little transit going along there, pulling the trailer behind, but the trailer was noisy. You'll never hear it to the same extent on these cameras as you would if you were sat out here with me in real life. So we've got these big old vehicles coming up here now. So what I want to do, I don't want to pull his head about, I don't want to rush it, I just want him to walk on past there and just be as, come on baby, good boy, walk up, good darling, good boy, come over, there's a good boy, yes you are, right. and letting past these big old trucks coming up here. Come over, babe, good boy. Now that one there is a prime example. You've got to understand this job, and when you've been doing it, you know, for a long time, there's two lorries. Now they're both Arctics, aren't they? But they're entirely different. One of them's a tipping body, so she's solid sided. The other one's a curtain sider. See that curtain sider rippling, you know, in the washing. You've got another one coming up behind us now, a big old truck, right? So I could pull in this lay-by, but I want the horse to stay on the road, yeah? And that big old thing there, see, going past, yeah. And I always thank the drivers, you know, like give them a wave after they've gone, which is lovely. So we're back on the road where we had all these problems. He was here with a schoolmaster and jumping from side to side, and we've kept his training up, and now, in my opinion, you'd find hard to get a better horse. This is the A30, right? And with these big dips in the road, like that car, like it's disappeared, and it's gone. And then it comes up again. Well, if you imagine an Arctic or a big old lorry coming the other way, when it's down in that dip, especially if the dip's deeper, it looks like it's coming out the ground. You know, it looks just like it's coming out the ground on a lift. Well, it frightens us. And you've got to have the patience of a saint. And we don't take them up here on this road, you know, like it takes a lot of work and a lot of patience, a lot of time to let him build his confidence. Not my confidence. He's got to have confidence in me, of course he has. And the driver's got to be confident. My confidence comes from, I suppose, all the years I've done it. You know, it comes that I know and understand horses, and I understand their body language. And there's so many things you can talk about, the obvious things like ears and tails and like that, but it's not that. It's every little, they can feel a fly on their body and tighten it up, or they can shake their skin to remove it, yeah? Well, how do they feel a fly? When you look how thick their skin is, how do they feel it? And then their coat on top of that. And they'll do the same thing when they've still got their winter coat, and you know, the first lot of flies come around, and they'll still twitch it off, you know, they give it a little shake and like that. So this horse is taken, it's already been here and was trained, had to go home, and then come back. So I had an accident where I was cutting down trees along the side of the road, doing perfectly right, everything was good what they was doing, had all the signs out, the lads was lovely that was doing it, but they cut a tree down on one side of the road, and a dead branch on the other side on a tree fell across my horses, just across them, you know, 1,000,000 to 1. It's like, how would that ever happen? But my horses never done anything very much, but it made them go up the bank and tip my cart over, and I fell down in front of the cart and hurt myself, and but the horses was good as gold. They only went literally no more than 15 feet, actual 15 feet. But as the cart went over and I went down, they pulled it onto me, but when I said to them, all lads and stand, they was good as gold. And the lads come and helped me up with the cart, and off we went again, fine. But it did, you know, knocked me about, it broke my hip and, you know, ribs and other things. So, but it weren't the horse's fault, it was nobody's fault. I mean, how would anyone know cutting a tree down that there's a tree on the other side of the road that's got a dead branch? So, that's held this horse, you know, from coming back in, up, and then I had a new knee fitted, so, but whilst he was at home and the girl was riding him, he had a bad experience with a motor car. Now, I can only tell you what the girl's told me. The car's come screaming down towards her. She's put her hand up to indicate asking it to stop, slow down at least, and it sort of more or less, you know, broke really hard and ended up by the side, then accelerated away at high speed, you know, fast. So the horse spun round and nearly went down a ditch, and it upset it and frightened it. Well, when it saw any traffic coming towards it, you know, it was frightened. Even motor cars, you know, it was like, when I say frightened, it would be with a motor car, it'd be more, you know. Your van, again, it got a bit worse, but tall lorries, tall vans, even something like a Tesco's delivery van or Sainsbury's, one of them, Waitrose, they would upset it, you know. So we've had to do a great deal of work getting it back. So they're the sort of things. But here you see them strolling up here now. Now this is a brilliant road because it's up and down, they come out the ground. Also, you can have 5 or 6 big lorries and then nothing for a long while. You know, like we are now, for instance, as you've seen. So that's brilliant. Now, why is it brilliant? Because it's unexpected. You cannot predict when the vehicles are going to come. So if you've got one that's, if you've got a thing where you're in the middle of a town or on a trading estate, there's a constant flow of vehicles all the time. So, come on, my baby. And bear in mind, please, because it is important to me that you understand this, right? The man has not been born that can stop a horse from running away in, you know, fear, panic, with a Liverpool and a curb chain or whatever you want to put in his mouth. You will not stop it with barbed wire. You wouldn't stop it. It'll run against that. It'll break its own jaw to get away. So if you doubt that, then look at all the accidents you see in the show ring when they're all up there with their Liverpool bits down on the slot. The same thing when you see them cross country. They got all the bit on them and everything like that. Everything we do is with a rubber bit. This horse is wearing a rubber bit. That's all he's wearing right this minute. All the time, whenever they come, they never have anything else. There's only one horse here that has a different bit. He still has a rubber bit in his mouth, but it has a Liverpool shank on it, and that's Cloud. Because the rubber cheek guards we use cause him to lose his pigment. You know, so you got a black horse. You know, he's a cross Frisian. You got a black horse like that with a big pink cheek. You know, so we put a Liverpool in, but it's just on smooth cheek, and you know, so it's because then he doesn't have any cheek guard, but the actual ring of the Liverpool prevents it being pulled through his mouth. Should that be the case, you know, I've got to turn him a bit sharp and like that. With these bits, which is a straight snaffle with a loose running ring, obviously with a young horse and he's learning the job, and you've got to bring him over, turn him left, turn him right, and you're teaching him, you're going to irritate him, you're going to hurt him with the ring. So if you're pulling on the left rein or the right rein, the opposite side is trying to pull the ring into his mouth. Well, that hurts, you know, so you've got no right to do that. So that's why we put a nice, and we put quite thick, they're quite thick rubber guards, they're not that thin, you can't get much thinner, but we put the thicker ones, and in some cases we'll put 4 on, like 2 each side to make it softer. So anyway, getting back to what I'm saying, so this horse now is ready to go home. Now here's the big problem. Here's the big problem. And I can only advise, that's all I can do. You know, I can say, there's your horse, it's safe and confident and happy with me driving it. Does that mean it will be safe, confident and happy with the owner driving it? I can't say. In this particular case, the lady will have had, by the time he goes on, whoops, steady bud, he just slipped in. The lady would have had about what she has, so say 2 hours on the reins, 3.5. She maybe had 5.5, 6 hours on the reins with her own horse. But her horse now is different Go on, mate, what you got? It's different to the horse she knew before. That's lovely there, that noise there, and that lorry, beautiful. And the lorry's gone up there, beautiful. I love that, that's marvellous. You say to me, well, you're crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I want as many noise and sounds and you know, whatever I can. While the horse is here with me, because every experience it has makes the horse a better horse, doesn't it? It's obvious. So, you know, a crunching noise like that, I don't know what that was, I hope it wasn't his gearbox. But, come over, baby. Good boy. So you see him come all the way up this A30, great big lorries, everything around him, travelling fast. And this is a beautiful thing to be able to do this, to get in the centre of the road, because we're turning to the right and you've got stuff coming up the inside. Because that don't happen very often, does it? So the more we can do that sort of thing. So if you're ever in this position, you're not going to get... Around my baby. The horse is not going to be startled by something up his inside. That's why roundabouts are so good. You know, like we go round Tesco's roundabout, and there's 4 lanes of traffic, so you can be in any one of those 4. So there he is. He's done and finished. But you know, the problem we've got is the handover thing, and I can only advise. You know, I would say, as I've said to the lady, you must be confident to harness the horse up, to put him to, because she's not a driver. You know, she's a rider. So this horse was ridden. So that's the sort of thing, you know, you've got to do. So you can only advise and say, you know, in my opinion, but at the end of the day, it's up to the owner. Because if I've finished the horse to the standard that I do, which on the A30, rubber bit in its mouth, great arctics coming either way, and the horse is accepting it, and walking along, you know, no problem at all, from what he was, really terrified, frightened, upset by most moving things, you know. Like we've got a little dumper, like they have on building sites, to pick the muck up, you know, from the stable and take across to the muck heap. We have a little dumper. Well, when you started that up and went in the stable, he was terrified. He'd be jumping about, you know, like, whoa, what's going on? You know, he was frightened. Poor little thing. So, well, poor big thing in his case. So that's what I'm saying. It's the time now. Now, if the person thinks that they've got enough experience with, you know, with this horse, not going to say enough experience, enough, well, yeah, I suppose experience with this horse is the right thing to say, really, in that amount of time, that's fine. It's okay. It's your horse, you take it home, but I can only advise, and that's all I can do. I can't do any more. Obviously, that means if I say, you know, you sure you're up to this, the alternative is it stays. If it stays, obviously, it's going to cost more money, which I can understand. You know, we're certainly not cheap. There's other people do the job, you know, less than we charge. But, you know, we try to do the job to the best of our ability. We've got all the insurances required. So, and everything like that, and you know, they get the best of grub, and all the equipment we use is good quality stuff. So that she's already got, you know, a nice vehicle, a big wagonette, modern wagonette, disc brakes all round. So that's the thing, really. You do this, you bring them up to this standard. and if someone believes they can do it, then they've got to make the decision to take the horse home. It's not our decision. All we can do is advise and say, well, you know. But obviously, when a horse comes here, and this is the problem when other people book horses in. So we thought this horse was going to be here a couple of 3 weeks just to get him back in, but it's taken, I think, 7 weeks. So that's put everybody else back, you know, that are on the list waiting to come in. So, which the list is, you know, long anyway. So it's a bit of a, what do you do? But I mean, he's a lovely, lovely, lovely horse. He's a kind, gentle, nice horse, sensitive horse. Just because he's a great big lump, don't mean to say he's not sensitive. You know, and he is sensitive, just like some people can be. Other people just walk off a duck's back. You know, raise your voice to him, shout at him, and can upset him. You know. But I know him. I don't mean to be big-headed, but I mean, my job is to, with each individual horse, is to try and see the world through their eyes. When I say their eyes, I'm not all, you know, that's all horses, but it's also individually with that horse, to try and see the world through their eyes. And that's taken me a long, long time to learn. And I'm self-taught, really, to, you know. Obviously, I've watched, when I was a little kid, I'd watched men how they handled their horses and done, and, you know, the only thing I can remember about that really was normally the quiet men had quiet horses, had sensible quiet horses, you know, how they was handled and treated. I mean, I'll raise my voice if it's needed to be raised, but if, you know, you come in the stable in the morning at 5, 6 o'clock when we start, they're all wicker away to you, talk to you like that. Some of them need a little scratch on the nose or a touch, need to physically make contact with you. They'll come and put their head over the stable door. It's not because they're wanting their grub or anything like that. They've already got their mangers, got plenty of haylage in, and, you know, whatever they're eating, maybe hay for some of them. So, you know, it's not that, but they just want to make contact with you, say good morning if you like. Others couldn't care whether you're there or not, you know what I mean? But it's got to be what they want, and now they're happy. So that's as much as I can say about him. He's finished, he's done. I'm pleased with what we've achieved with him. Lovely, lovely, lovely horse. And as long as he's, I don't expect, I don't expect people to, I don't know how to say this really, I don't expect people perhaps to have my ability with horse, because that's what I do, isn't it? So it's like a plumber, electrician, you know, a roofer, a brain surgeon. They're good at what, you know, they do. If they like what they do, you know, you obviously get better at what you do if you enjoy what you do. And I mean, I love what I do. I mean, I wouldn't want to do anything else at all, ever. But this is the time when you hand them over to someone else, and they can, without being, it's easy to ruin a horse. And when I say ruin it, to upset it, get it wrong, start yanking it on the mouth, that type of thing. I mean, this horse is in a soft rubber bit. If I just stop him now, well, and I'll turn his head round here, you can see quite, stand still baby, stand still my darling. You see there, soft rubber bit, cheek guard, walk up, you good boy. So, you know, it's, and some people, don't get me wrong, I mean, seriously, some people can just have a, you know, never driven before. I had a young lad that come down and, oh, he was like a natural, if you like, on the rein. He sort of got it straight away. You know, I said to him, you know, I explained to him, he come out with me, with his auntie. He come out with me a couple of 3 times when she was visiting, and he just picked it up straight away. Now the funny thing is, The young lad picked it up straight away, really, really good. But he had no interest in it. You know, it's like, oh, if it had been my son or grandson, I'd have been over the moon. You know, I'd say, look, he's got it. You know, he knows what it's about. He can see, he can understand. So he understood horses, but you know, it's not what he wanted to do. Anyway, that's as much as I can say. I hope you've enjoyed these, you know, series of 3 films, or 3 or 4 films he's got up on YouTube. And there's a lot to learn in these films, you know, for me, you know, let alone anybody else. One other thing I would say that's very, very important, seriously so. When the horses are here, anyone, I think, that watches the films can see that they're relaxed, they're happy, they're safe, confident and happy. That's what we've always said at All Strong, been saying it, but well, most of my life. They've got to be safe, confident and happy. And all the 3 things got to come together. So to be safe, they've got to be confident and happy. To be happy, they've got to be safe and confident, haven't they? So what I'm saying is, it's the 3 things together that make the horse, really, so that he can enjoy his life, he can enjoy his driving life. But what you can't do is, or what, getting back to, you know, it's time for the horse to go home. We've done all we can, we've got it to this standard after all the trauma it's had, etc. Brought it right back up. The lass said it's so much better than it was when it was good, you know, before. It's working now, it's getting into the collar, it covered the ground, it can do the miles, it's ultra fit, everything's, you know, really good. But the problem is, 2 things happen, and the best way, I've explained this before quite a few times, but it sounded boring anybody. If you've got children and there's a funeral or a wedding and you can't take your children, or any occasion that you can't take them, you leave them with a friend sometimes, or, you know, a member of the family, or like that, you know. You've got to leave them there. And the first thing you do when you come to pick them up, you put your head in the door, the first thing you ask the person, have they been good? They're always good. People say, yeah, they've been perfect, couldn't be any better, yeah? Been absolutely lovely. That's the answer you get 99% of the time. Now, if they were there for 2 or 3 days, they wouldn't be actually lovely. They'd be messed about, wouldn't they? They would be. So when they come to us, there's a big change. They don't know us. They don't know the stables. They don't know anything. So we have an advantage that we can say, no, we don't let that do. We don't do that here. You've got to do it like this, or, you know, we'd like you to behave like this, or whatever it might be, yeah? Oh, baby, stand. Come over, darling. Be a good boy. So, that's, so we have that advantage. Now, when they go home, they're back home. So it's like when you take your kids home, they're noisy, banging about, doors banging. They've never brought their washing down, whatever, you know, they do, kids drive you crackers, you know, it's going to happen. But when they were staying somewhere else, even if it's overnight, or even a couple of days, as good as gold, couldn't be any better. But it wouldn't stay like that, would it? So when they go home, what's he going to be like when he gets home? And if he thinks to himself in any way, I can get away with this, I can do this here. So when I say get away with things, like if I tell him, well, that's what I want, stop immediately, stand still, yeah? When I tell him, walk, that's what I want him to do, yeah? So, if they get away with even the simplest thing, right, that will build up, and they will start taking the mickey, they take liberties, and you'll come to a junction, and instead of them just, you go walk and they stop on a sixpence, that won't happen. They'll walk out in the traffic, or they'll fidget, they'll come back, they'll move forward. They'll say, come on, let's get on with this. No good. So they've got to continue Now, what happens is, I try and explain the same thing to everybody that comes here. You've got to keep the horse in the same place. No, you're not going to drive it as often as I have, but then I've already given it 2 days off, give it all the grub, and I've brought it out and drove it, and it's fine. So the horse, then they say, well, could you just have him back? You know, there's lots of different ways of looking at this. There's one where a lot of people do say to us, they turn the horse away for the winter. Yeah, so it's turned away. They don't, from like October around till March, they don't drive it at all. And you know, quite a few people that don't have the time, they've got full-time jobs, they go, okay, they just asked us to put it back in. Well, that's normally a couple of weeks, and they're back, getting fit, they're up together, they've seen it all again, and everything's fine. That's the same for any horse, anywhere, any job, anything it does, from hunters to, you know, to whatever, right, you can think of. Horses have time off, they want to come back into work. It's like you're going on holiday and coming back into work, so that's all right, but they mustn't, then you run the risk, not in a situation like that when they've just had time off over the winter, but if someone's let them mess about, right, and has messed them up after you do all this work, and then they say, oh, can you have it back? Of course I will, no problem at all. You know, as long as when you pick it up, you agree the horse is 1,000,000%, you know, it's the best it can be, which is what we try to do with all horses, then say we do achieve, really, you see by the films. They all end up doing the same thing, or the same type of things. But if they get, you know, if they take liberties when they go back home, then you say have them back, all you're doing really is saying, oh, when you go back you behave yourself, you know, and everything's good and you're lovely again, and then when I get home I can do what I like. So that's the reason that you've got to be in control and keep the same standards up of discipline, if you like. Discipline's a dirty word in this day and age, but it's not smacking them or hurting them, is it? It's just that when I'm feeding you, you step back and let me put this food in the manger, and you wait until I'm out of the way before you come and eat it. It means that when I'm putting a rug on, you stand still. You know, you step back from your hay rack, you stand while I put your rug on, or anything like that. General handling, pick their feet up. So if they let all them things slip, you know, when you're grooming them, they've got to stand still. Now, most horses do, because they're not going to be groomed. But, you know, picking their feet out for the farrier, everything like that, they've got to be, you know, doing it exactly as they do as they say me. And then, if you keep them like that, they will be safe, confident and happy in that sphere. They'll love it. You know, that's where they want to be. They're happy. So I'm going to pull over here, and it's a narrow road. I've got a big old vehicle wanting to come past. Big old truck there. See that clunking and banging. That big old Arctic's turned off, but here we are in a country lane. You know, I mean, why would you ever expect to see a big old vehicle like that here? And it can be anywhere. And the reason it's here is because you've got John Deere's here, right in the middle of nowhere. John Deere's places where they service and sell tractors and stuff and equipment. So, you know, the horse just let it part. I mean, you've got to stop and move over, because there just would not be room for a big white vehicle like this horse. But if you stand there and let it run right past your head, no trouble at all. Anyway,